Did you see the stars? Everyone goes stargazing.
Oh, yes, we see.
These guys went stargazing in the middle of the night.
Was an error socket?
Okay.
Should be just
Do you want the one for your phone?
No, he's for his phone, USB-C. Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
You got the top yet?
No. You don't need that.
Oh, you're basically doing a revision.
Sorry?
You're doing a revision of this.
Yeah.
We've done this book before, the one that we showed.
Okay.
I said I don't feel like we did it in as much detail as, because if you imagine we're doing this and then this is the only thing that we do, so we do like so many other hadith books on the side. This would just be like a side thing. Even though this is the main science that we should do with hadith,
More
I don't feel like we went into the people.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي سلسل أسانيد أهل العلم إلى أشرف المخلوقات وجعلها متصلة غير منقطعة بسيد البريات والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المخلوقات أما بعد. So last week we had quite an intense session, but the recording was lost, unfortunately. That's why we couldn't send it out. And after last week we finished more or less all the different types of hadith which we missed. And I think this is really important. Once we finish this book, through Mashwara, inshallah, we'll decide together. But we're planning to start the 40 hadith about Imam Mahdi, and that can be covered in 2-3 weeks. So when we cover this hadith, obviously from this hadith, some of the hadith are in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. Some of these hadith are in other hadith books, and some of them have problems in the hadith. So we can actually see, using these terminology, we can apply them onto the hadith, and we can take it from there and actually visit what different scholars say about these particular hadiths regarding the Mahdi, and inshallah we can analyze the hadith and take it from there. And regarding the Mahdi, some scholars even said these hadith about the Mahdi have reached mutawatir ma'nawi. So this is very early. We talked about mutawatir ma'nawi. Can you remember what mutawatir was?
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. That kind of narration, and people like Safilini, the Muhaddith, and other scholars have said, the hadith about the Mahdi are mutawatir in terms of their meaning. So what does that mean in terms of implications? If someone objects to the Mahdi, what does that make them? Like a deviant, or does that make them a disbeliever? We'll speak about all these once we analyze those hadith one by one. So the 40 hadith we'll be analyzing is the book by Abu Nu'aym al-Asfahani, and upon that As-Suyuti, Jalaluddin As-Suyuti has written that book and added more hadith to it and refined it, and he's included it as part of Hawi lil Fatawi. So we'll probably look at that as well, and we'll look at it as a whole sort of thing, and we'll apply all these terminology we learned. So last week, because obviously the connection was really bad, I'll just give a quick summary of what we covered last week, after mentioning that, remember that brother that we met on the plane, the Christian brother, and he told us, we were speaking about Mustalah Hadith. So this brother, when we went to Spain first, Andalusia, he said, he was talking about different systems of Isnad, right? And he was saying how the system of Isnad that we have today in Islam, I told him that this is like a unique thing for Islam, and he's like, no, the Jews have it as well. So these Jews have a system of preservation of chain of narration going all the way back for the Talmud, which is their equivalent of hadith. So the Talmud, it was written after Musa alayhi salam, and when the scholars came, and to a certain point, right, the Talmud was preserved. So last week when we spoke to the rabbi on Thursday, we had a little session with the rabbi where we were speaking about Judaism. So I asked him this question about the chain of the Talmud, and he said regarding the chain of narration of the Talmud, what we would describe in our Mustalah terminology, that the chain of narration, although there is some sort of chain of narration, it's not muttasil, so it's not connected. There's breakages in the chain, so it's munqati. So that, alhamdulillah, even affirmed our belief even more that the system of isnad is unique to this ummah, and the scholars call it a secret of this ummah. The scholars have said, al-isnadu min ad-din, walau lahu laqala man sha'a ma sha'a. That the isnad is actually indeed a part of this religion. And if it wasn't for isnad, then anyone could say as they wished. And the famous thing of Abdullah ibn Mubarak as well, that al-isnadu silahul mu'min, that the isnad is like the weapon of the believer. وَلَوْ لَهُ فَبِأَيِّ شَيْءٍ يُقَاتَلْ. Right? If a person didn't have isnad, then how are they going to, challenge one another in terms of, proving matters of the deen? Because our deen is really important to us, and establishing something in our deen takes like evidence. It's an evidence-based approach that we have to take when sort of establishing matters from our deen. So we use isnad as the basis for this. So all of this is highlighted around isnad and how we establish a strong chain of narration and how we sort of ratify the chain of narrations in order for us to act upon them. So it affects us acting upon these various narrations. Oh, one second. Okay. So some of the scholars also said, I mentioned these right in the beginning about isnad, that for example, Muhammad ibn Sirin. Muhammad ibn Sirin, interestingly, just a quick side point, when Khalid bin Walid conquered North Africa, they found this church, right? And in the church, they found these boys, young boys. And these young boys, they were kept against their will because maybe, their families hadn't paid what was due to them. So the people just took their boys instead. And they were like in the monastery and kept there. So when Khalid bin Walid conquered that, he found these, and obviously when the Muslims conquered this land, they took the kids back. From those individuals were the likes of Sirin, who was the son, whose son was Muhammad ibn Sirin, assalamu alaikum, whose son was Muhammad ibn Sirin, the famous Tabi'i, who we're going to talk about in a sec. And from amongst them was the grandfather or the father of Muhammad ibn Ishaq. So Muhammad ibn Ishaq's father was actually in that group of individuals. So all of these scholars of Islam, a majority of the people who do khidmah of hadith, they were non-Arab in nature, right? And their name and legacy lives on today. Look, children of converts, they were found in the church, and all their children, most of these descendants of these individuals who were found, they were the likes of Muhammad ibn Sirin, Muhammad ibn Ishaq. So Muhammad ibn Sirin said that there wasn't a need for us to talk about isnad until the great fitna happened. And the great fitna, do you guys know what it was?
Oh, the fire which burned a lot of.
No.
It's Mongolia.
No. This is very early in Islam. What do you think it would be within the first 50, 100 years?
Someone massacred a lot of.
Yeah. So the Sahaba, the rift between them, Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, Jamal Siffin. So when Jamal and Siffin were the two battles that took place during the time of the companions, after sort of the completion of Islam, the death of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in those two battles, more companions died than the entire battles of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his lifetime. So it was a big fitna, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, foreshadowed this before when he told people what to do during them at that time, to be isolated, to stay neutral, and people like the likes of Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala who were truly neutral in those things. So that's a side point. So we only started asking about isnad when this fitna happened, and it's because a lot of people started coming into the fold of Islam, and people started bringing their own practices from their own cultures into Islam, which isn't really a bad thing. But when you make it part of the religion and try and say, no, this is part of the religion, then you have to ask, where did you actually get that from? Like Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala, and one of the companions was praying Surah Taha in a different sort of style, in a different recitation. And he goes, who taught you this recitation? He goes, Allamaniha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught me this. So Umar bin Khattab went back to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to him that, one of the brothers joined from Turkey. He said, Umar ibn Khattab said to him that, Umar ibn Khattab went back to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked him, what is this? And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon that occasion said, Inna hadha al-Quran unzilat ala sab'ati ahrufin, faqra'u ma tayassara min. That the Quran has been revealed in 7 different ways, and recite in the way that is easiest for you. The point I wanted to take from that is there were difference of opinion, and what was the way of the Sahaba? The way of because our role models in life and in everything is the way of the Sahaba. Umar bin Khattab, who was one of the leaders of the Sahaba, he went and he didn't just take someone else's word for it, he went and confirmed it. So he said, where did you get that from? And he went, because he had the source, obviously, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he went back to the Messenger and asked him, what is this? This guy read differently to how I'm reading. And so he mentioned that. So alhamdulillah, the system of Isnad is something that's a great blessing for this ummah. So we spoke about Hadith Mudraj, and I'm just going to quickly summarize what we spoke about last week. Hadith Mudraj is where you have a hadith where someone added to it, so an extra thing that's added, and this can be in the beginning, this can be in the middle, this can be in the end, and usually it takes place in the beginning. And we spoke about the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, asbighul wudu waylun lil aqabi min an-nar, that he from his own saying said, asbighul wudu, complete your wudu to fullness, because waylun lil aqabi min an-nar, because woe to those who leave the dry parts of their ankle dry, will be to them. It's like a discouragement of leaving your ankle dry, because some people, when they did wudu, they didn't do wudu completely, they left part of their ankles dry. So from there, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala said, asbighul wudu. But some people will think that that was the full saying of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it sounds, like a command. It sounds like something that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say. So some people from that would take this as the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the scholars had to work out what was actually the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And usually these were innocent, like people didn't want to add something to the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they wanted to explain what he said, right? So there might be a difficult word or something difficult that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was talking about, and the person who's narrating it wants to make it easier. So hence, they're elucidating it and explaining it in a different way. So, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said that remember abundantly the destroyer of pleasures. أكثروا ذكر هذه اللذات. So remember abundantly the destroyer of pleasures. So what is the destroyer of pleasures? What is the destroyer of pleasures? What's the death, right? But that's not really clear, like if you're not in that context and you're not talking about that, So if someone comes and, we're having a laugh and an uncle comes, right, saying, oh, why are you guys messing about? But the destroyer of our pleasures is the uncle. So we're thinking, Amanji, Uncle G, he's Uncle G. So destroying our pleasures. So it depends on the context. So if it's devoid of context, you won't understand what he's talking about. That's why some of the Sahaba had the sort of initiative to explain that, and that's been included in the hadith. So sometimes, extra words might be included. So when we say a portion of the hadith is mudraj, means that's not from the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but it can be disguised because of certain scenarios. And I mentioned this example before about, Thabit and Sharik, when the teacher was reciting the hadith, he was narrating the hadith and said, An Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and he looks up and he comes, Thabit comes, and he goes, Man kathurat salatuhu bil-layl hasuna wajhuhu bin-nahar, that whoever has a lot, and the people who are writing, they just carried on writing, and they thought that was what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, because the sentence sounds like a good sentence. Sentence sounds like a good sentence, and hence they thought that this was from the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was mudraj, and we spoke about what the reasons was for mudraj. How do we tell a hadith is mudraj? Right, we spoke about the reasons for that. Just in brief, if the person who's narrating it, they themselves said, "This is my word. This is not from the words of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Another thing is, give 2 examples. Admittance. Well, how would we tell if a hadith is mudraj? The style. So sometimes, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks in a certain way, and when we read a lot of the hadith, if you're with someone, for example, I know this brother for quite a long time, and there's certain things which he says, certain things which he doesn't say. Yeah? Okay, he's mysterious. Yes. But in general, there's certain things, if you spoke about nuclear physics, like suddenly spoke about nuclear physics, like that wouldn't make sense coming from you, right? I would think, no, he's a medic, he's not stupid. But this is, it wouldn't make sense to come from him. When the same way, for example, our brother Mahmoud talks about string theory a lot. So one of our friends, mashallah, medical student, he talks about string theory. So it would make sense that coming from him. In the same time, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks in a unique way. And when you're in the company of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, directly or through his words, meaning the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can tell sometimes that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't really speak like this. So again, let me check the sanad, and from there you can tell hadith mudraj. Again, another thing we mentioned is certain things it's impossible for the Messenger. There will be certain exceptions, but in general, for example, he won't order. Okay, so this is an example we're going to cover in Sirah in a few weeks. So when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about the Jews of Banu Qurayza that kill them all. Usually, in the general sense, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never say that because it's against his ethos. It's against what Allah said in the Quran about him. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. I did not send you except for a mercy to the mankind. That's usually against his ethos. But in this particular circumstance, because of looking at it in context, why the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, we discuss in Sirah, the implications that had of the sentence. But in general, it was impossible for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say that. But you have to know his life in full to be able to make that judgment. Right, so that's that thing. Then the next term we spoke about is hadith maqloob. Yes. So maqloob is when mix it up a little bit. So you put one part in the beginning and one part in the end. So for example, which hadith did we give as example for maqloob? Okay. Did we give that example? It's not mentioned in this book, but yeah. Okay, so the hadith of Sahih Muslim, where the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there are 7 people. Amongst these 7 people, for these 7 people, Allah will give shade to, right? Allah will give shade to these people. It's mentioned here. الَّذِينَ يُذِلُّهُمْ اللَّهُ فِي ذِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ذِلَّ إِلَّا ذِلُّهُ. Allah will give them shade on the day that there will be no other shade except for the shade of Allah. And one of them, وَرَجُلٌ, it's a man who gives sadaqah بصدقة فأخفاها حتى لا تعلم يمينه ما تنفق شماله. That until this person, his right hand doesn't know what his left hand spent. Right? And we spoke about the implication that may have, because in the Arabic language, a right hand is a giving hand. Al-yadul ulya khayrun min al-yad sufla, another hadith of the Messenger, which means that the giving hand is better than the taking hand. So our right hand is usually I'm giving you, and a left hand is I'm taking from you. So the giving is usually given by the right hand. But if you mix it up saying his left hand doesn't know what his right hand spent, or his right hand doesn't know what his left hand spent, so this is left hand spending mean he's taking or giving. So it sometimes can mess the meaning up. So this is an example of hadith maqloob, right? Where you mix it up, and the reasons for this, what was the reasons for hadith maqloob existing? A mistake by the person who's narrating it. People make mistakes. If it's a common occurrence, then we look, this it might imply something else regarding the narrator. But in general, 2 mistakes is fine. So a person can narrate it by mistake, forgetfulness. What else? As a test, So Imam Bukhari, So Imam Bukhari, the scholars of Baghdad actually came to test Imam Bukhari because they heard about him, right? So they went to test Imam Bukhari, and they wanted to ask. They got a lot of hadith, and they mixed these chains of narrations up. They mixed the matan of hadith, and it was 100 narrations. Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, they narrated it to him. These 10 scholars are narrating this hadith to him. He said every single hadith as they narrated it once. They said it once. He repeated it back to them as they narrated it, and then he said the correct version, and that really impressed them because his phenomenal memory. And Bukhari was one of those individuals in the history of Islam who really had this phenomenal memory, where when the other students of hadith used to be writing the hadith, he used to just be sitting down looking, because he was internalizing everything on the spot. this sort
I
of.
have a question on Imam Bukhari. Is it true that he was blind when he was born and then?
Yeah, so this incident about Imam Bukhari being blind is mentioned in the Tarjama of Imam Bukhari, the biography, that he was blind when he was born, or when he was very young, and his mother used to make dua
Yes.
for her child. And when when his mother one night went to sleep, she saw the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and said, your child has been given his eyesight back. And she miraculously woke up, went to him, and his eyesight was given back. So this is one of the incidents regarding Imam Bukhari and his life. But Hadith Maqlub. So these were the reasons for Hadith Maqlub. And then we spoke about Hadith Mudtarab. This was a bit tricky to understand. What does Mudtarab mean? Literally. Garbar Sharbar.
Opposed, right?
Mudtarab shaky. We spoke about the word ittaraba used when waves crash against each other.
Yeah.
So waves crashing against each other, that's ittirab. But when we're talking about narrations, it means two hadith of the same strength, but they're opposing each other. So we can't prefer one over the other. So what do? We're just like confused. So I think a definition in English in one word that we give of a marwi, of a narration, of a riwayah, which is muttarab, is confused hadith. As in, the person who's reading a hadith will get confused because there are two narrations and they are kind of opposing each other. And we gave examples of these about zakat. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said regarding zakat, "Inna fil mali la haqqan siwa zakat." So in a person's wealth, there is a right upon the poor, except for zakat. As in, zakat is a separate thing. And in another hadith, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was asked about zakat, he said, he was asked about zakat. He said in Ibn Majah, "Laysa fil mali haqqun siwa zakat." So in a person's wealth, they don't have to give anything else except for zakat. So in one narration is saying one thing, another narration is saying another thing, and they both weigh the same in terms of strength. So we can't, and they both contradict each other. And there's nothing to make one preferable over the other. So this hadith is known as hadith muftarab. And if we have a reason to prefer one over the other, the hadith, we call it, the hadith is no longer muftarab. Right? So this is a muftarab hadith. So in general, this hadith are weak because we don't know which one to prefer over the other. This can be in terms of the person narrating it, in terms of the actual chain of narration. For example, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala saw the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, araka shibta." O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to get grey hair. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Shayyabatni Hudun wa akhawatuha." That Hud and his sister surahs have given me grey hair. Meaning that, the mention of Qiyamah and torment and stories of past in there have caused my hair to go grey. So in regard to that, Daraqutni said this is hadith muttarab because it's only narrated from Abu Ishaq, and it's like there's 10 different ways it's been narrated. Some of these people say that this was actually the saying of Abu Bakr. Some people say no, it was the saying of Aisha. Some people say no, it was from the hadith of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, and other things as well. People narrate this hadith in different ways. The person who narrated it, we don't even know who narrated it. And all of these hadith are of the same strength. So we can't prefer one over the other. So this hadith is known as Muttarabul Isnad. So when you say hadith is Muttarab, when we mention this, when we talk about the Mahdi, inshallah, and those 40 hadith regarding him, hadith Muttarab means shaky hadith. Can't prefer one over the other. So it's from the category of Da'if hadith. And then the final thing we spoke about is hadith Musahhaf. So what's tasheef? يحرفون الكلمة عن مواضعه. To change. So it can be a scribal error. And we gave examples of it last time. It is still on the board. Okay. You want to grab that board? I'll show you guys quickly. People who want
The
Okay, I'll tell you. Both of these brothers are here, so I'll say that again. So we have, Sijil. If we take a dot from there and put it there, what does it become? Sikhil. So, because, early on in terms of the writing style, dots weren't really used. So it's based on hearing. So sometimes they'll make a mistake and you change completely the words sometimes. The example's gone from there. Al-mazahim, majahim, what even is that? A small addition or change to a letter can make a big difference in the Arabic language. So a small dot can make a difference in terms of how you pronounce it. So these were errors done, and it's because the words actually look the same. And we mentioned an incident last week about Thomas the physician. Can you remember? So Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi mentions this from the Diwan of Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi. يظن الغمر أن الكتب تهدي أخا فهما لإدراك العلوم. That an ignorant person thinks that you can attain knowledge just by reading books. وما يدري الجهول بأن فيها غوامض حيرت عقل الفهيم. But this ignorant person doesn't understand, ignoramus doesn't understand that in these books, in the depth of these books, there are such like masail and things which perplex, confuse even the most understanding of readers. حيرت عقل الفهيم. إذا رمت العلوم بغير شيخ ضللت عن الصراط المستقيم. This is from the poetry. حتى تصير أضل من التوم الحكيم. And you will become more confused, and situations will become more confusing for you than they were for Thomas the physician. So you guys heard the story of Thomas the physician, Toma al-Hakimi. I've told you about him once. So Toma al-Hakimi, I'm sure I mentioned it. I mentioned it last week definitely, but before that.
Well, the black seed.
Yeah.
The snake.
So Toma al-Hakimi, he was a doctor, but he didn't go to med school. As in his dad was a doctor. That's how it used to be in the old days. If you've got a line of physicians, you're a physician. So what he did, Thomas' dad, he had several books on medicine in Arabic language. And when his dad died, obviously he didn't go to med school, So Thomas, he got the books of his dad and he started, prescribing his own medicine. So, diagnosing, blah, blah, blah. And on one of the books, it said, Habbatu Sauda, Habbatu Sauda dawa'un li kulli da. That the black seed is a cure for every illness. The black seed is a cure for every illness. So on that book, instead of Habbatu Sauda, the difference between a ba and ya, what is it? In terms of just looking at the script, the letter. Yeah, at the letter.
Yeah.
What's the difference between ba and ya?
Is it A's at the bottom, Ya's at the top?
No, ya's got the extra dot at the bottom. I'll show you guys. Have we got a pen? So this is a ba. Yeah. This is a ya. So when you add an extra dot, it becomes a ya. So habbatu sauda dawa'u li kulli da means the black seed is a cure for every illness. But when you add an extra dot, hayyatu sauda dawa'u li kulli da, it means the black snake, the venom of the black snake is a cure for every illness. So in his copy, someone added the extra dot. It was a scribal error. It was tasheef. There's a scribal error being done. And he tried it on himself and Bichara died.
This is true story or?
It's mentioned by Abu Hayyan. I don't know the actual, reliability of it, but it's mentioned in the Diwan of Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi. Okay, so that was tasheef. So tasheef sometimes can be fatal. These are the things in Mustalah Hadith that can be fatal. It's a medical emergency if you get it wrong at times. Okay, so that was recovered, and inshallah we're covering a couple of more things. Okay, a few more minutes, inshallah. So jahala.
Really good. Your notes are really good.
Did you write everything I said?
No.
Because that's what when he was in madrasa, he's used to writing everything the teacher says. Good note taker, mashallah. Okay, so today we're talking about al-jahala bil rawi. Meaning, if the person who narrates the hadith is unknown. So what does that actually mean? There's different types of jahala. So jahila in the Arabic language is the opposite of alima, which means to know. So jahila it means to be ignorant of.
The jahiliyyah.
Yeah, so ayyam al-jahiliyyah, the days of ignorance, like that. So in terms of the technical meanings, adamu ma'rifati ayn al-rawi aw halihi. So we don't know, this person who's narrating the hadith, we don't know who he is, because his biography is unknown. school because of that. So, for example, the famous example that we have on the right hand side, his brother has 5 names. Brother Hamza, Mian, Wahid, Iqbal. I get right in right order. Like a Mian, Wahid, Hamza, Iqbal. Oh, is it?
You have a special passport?
Yeah.
That's why when we go on holiday with him, it hasn't happened yet. But they'll be like, what is your actual name? First name. So sometimes, you can call this brother by Hamza. Still, his name's Hamza. You can call this brother as Wahid. He's still, Wahid. Call his brother Mian. Still, he is Mian. But we don't, like, for example, people who don't know him, if we spoke to Ahmed, where's Mian? We only reference him to Hamza in our conversations, right? We speak to him and address him as Hamza. But if we say to Ahmed, yo, call Mian, he's going to be going downstairs, who's Mian? When he knows who the person is. So sometimes a person can narrate the hadith and use a different name for the person who they're narrating from. And we spoke about why they would do this. Why would they do this? Why would I use a different name?
To strengthen the hadith.
How would that
Add another chain to it.
I don't know. You see, I've got so many teachers. Me, I studied with shuyukh. So I went to so many countries. I studied with so many shuyukh. So, to increase your teachers. So I've got so many teachers. I'm a big muhaddith now. I studied from him, but in fact, the same guy. We gave the example of Ibn Abi Dunya before. Ibn Abi Dunya had several names, and people narrating from him, they use different names when narrating from him. So Ibn Abi Dunya, and then, when you narrate from, why else would a person narrate using a different name?
Conceal
His identity.
Conceal the narrator because he's a weak narrator. So, so I'm just going to skip him. He narrated. So instead of fully skipping him, this brother, mashallah, very authentic hadith narrator. I'm a hadith student. And I think, I really want this hadith to make it sahih, It proves my point. They didn't have Google those days. So they had to, use isnad, a bit deceitful. So I know what your name is, but I use a different name. I use Abu Ahmed narrates from Ahmed. So it looks like someone else is narrating. And there is a person called Abu Ahmed, but it's not you. But you are also, in a way, your child is called Ahmed, for example. That's why you're Abu Ahmed in that sense. But other people are going to think a different Abu Ahmed narrated from him. And this is really confusing when Abu Ahmed did actually narrate from him, a different Abu Ahmed, and you're also Abu Ahmed is narrating from him. But you're not the famous one. But you're giving the illusion, And this has crept up in the hadith literature, right? And how do you spot them? This is when you require expertise. This is when you require al-Bukhari and Muslim, Ahmed ibn Hanbal to certify and to check these, because they can spot these from just by looking at them. That's what you call a real expert in hadith. So, these are the reasons. So you have these types of things, calling a rawi by his quality, his name, his kunya, right? A quality that he has, his occupation as well, hirfa. So, for example, one of the teachers of Ibn Taymiyyah, actually, he was a famous musnid at his time. Was it Al-Hajjar? I forgot his first name. So he used to be involved with rocks. Abu Tahir al-Hajjar, I can't remember his name. Abu Tahir al-Hajjar. So al-Hajjar is a person who, messes around with rocks, picks rocks up and does rock business. I don't know what that is. But his dad used to take him to the majalis of the hadith scholars when he was young. So he has all the chains of narrations, but he never decided to become a scholar. He decided to be a stone guy. So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't think it was a geologist, actually. Stonemason. I don't know what it's called. But, civil engineer. So he decided to go on those lines and become a failure, unfortunately. I'm joking. Because I'll tell you why. He's going to be remembered until the end of time as his profession. So, mashallah, civil engineering. Sheikh Aman is civil engineering. So Ibn Taymiyyah and these lot found this guy later on. Remember, his whole life in narrating hadith. But towards the end of his life, they found him as a scholar who has really high chains of narration. No one else has high chains of narration as he has, because his father took him to the majalis of the muhaddithin when he was young. So then they narrated from him and they said, oh, haddathani shaykhi wa huwa ummi. They use words like this, that our sheikh narrated to us, but he's a illiterate man. You know, because he didn't know the science of hadith, but just as a musnid, as a person who transmitted, they kept him as a sheikh. So sometimes, you know, you can be associated with your profession or quality that you have, you know, al-a'mash, you know, al-a'ma, you know, Gundur. What's Gundur? Muhammad ibn Bashar. What does Gundur mean?
Do you remember?
Yeah, go on, to say the story.
So one day he was in the majlis and he made lots of noise, and the teacher from then on he was known as Gundur because he made like this sound. Like that's why.
Gundur. So he was called Gundur because he used to make certain sounds. That's why he's known as Gundur. So Gundur narrated to us. That means the guy who makes this sort of sounds, you know.
Bandar as well. Bandar is Bandar.
Bandar. Yeah. So, you know, different narrators have different qualities that they're remembered by. And, you know, this can make them majhul in that sense, you know, that we don't know this who this person is. So, Adamu tasrih bi ismihi. So the first thing is only, you know, one narrator narrates from them. This guy is known as majhulul ayn. So majhulul ayn, okay, so there are different types. There's majhulul ayn, which is absolute majhul. This guy is absolutely majhul, meaning one narrator narrates from him, and we don't even know who he is, but we know that one narrator narrated from him, right? So it's فلا لم يروي عنه. So only one narrator narrates from him. And another thing is Adamu tasrih bi ismihi, we don't know his name clearly. There's no explicit mention of his name, and this is known as mubham. Okay, for example, a person, this is another example given here. Muhammad ibn Sa'ib ibn Bishr al-Kalbi نسبه بعضهم إلى جده فقال محمد ibn Bishr. So Muhammad, the son of Sa'ib, the son of Bishr al-Kalbi. Some people ascribed him to his grandfather. Some people said Muhammad ibn Bishr, but his dad's name was Sa'ib. His granddad's name was Bishr. Some people call him Muhammad ibn Bishr, right? Some people call him Hammad ibn Sa'ib. Hammad is another name he had, but his name Muhammad. For example, Muhammad Siddiq. Some people know him as Muhammad, some people know him as Siddiq, right? Abdul Habib Rahman is the brother's name. Some people know him as Abdul, some people know him as Habib. You know, different people know him. You have different names. His brother. It's a famous thing in Bengali people as well. You have a name that you have for public, and you have something called a dakhnam, which is, you know, a name that you have at home. Nickname kind of thing. But it's actually a name that you have. And usually they keep it as your middle name. So again, Hammad ibn Sa'ib. So some people call him Abu Nadhr. Some people call him Abu Sa'id. Some people call him Abu Hisham. So he had three sons, Sa'ad, Nadhr, Sa'id, and Hisham. Some people call him the father of Sa'ad, the father of Hisham, the father of you know, Nadhr sometimes. So is this the same person? Yes, it's all the same person. But when people narrated hadith from him, they you know, use different names. وكان بعضهم أبا سعيد وكان بعضهم أبا هشام فصار يظن أنه جماعة وهو واحد. So it started becoming the case that people thought these were different people, but they're actually one person. And مثال قلة رواية الراوي وقلة من روى عنه أبو العشراء الدارمي من التابعين لم يروي عنه غير حماد بن سلمة. So Hammad ibn Salima narrated from a person called Abu al-Ashara ad-Darimi, and he was only one person who narrated from him. No other person narrated from him. And for example, a person says مثال عدم التسريب باسمه, you know, قول الراوي أخبرني فلان, that fulan narrated to me, or the sheikh narrated to me, or the man narrated to me. So you have ومن لم تعرف عينه وصفته. So al-majhul is a person who you don't know who he is or his qualities. هو الراوي الذي لم تعرف ذاته أو شخصيته. We don't know who he is, or we don't know his biography, his characteristics. Or we know his characteristics, but we don't know his qualities. So we don't know whether he was a trustworthy narrator or whether he had a precision in terms of his memory, in terms of his intellect. So you have majhulul ayn, ومن ذكر اسمه ولكن لم يروي عنه إلا راو واحد. So his name is mentioned, we know his name, but only one person narrates from him. He is known as Majhulul Ayn. And there are different opinions what we do with the Majhulul Ayn. So some of the scholars said that when you have a person who one person narrated from him only, we don't know anything about this guy in his biography. Some of the scholars said straight away, da'if hadith. Hadith, we won't accept it, mardud, da'if hadith. And this is the kind of opinion of the majority of the hadith scholars. For example, the likes of as-Subki. So even to the extent Ibn as-Subki said that there is ijma among the muhaddithin that this is not acceptable. This type of narration is not acceptable. But the reality is there's no ijma. Ijma means consensus, that every single scholar said that you don't accept it. This is what Ibn as-Subki said. But this was a bit of an exaggeration because some scholars did accept it. Like the second opinion, which is when you find a hadith majhulul ayn rawi, you accept it. Eyes, what's the saying? Eyes closed, blindly accept it, right? Accept this hadith. And this was the opinion of Ibn al-Mawaq from the Hanafi school, and the opinion of Ibn Habban, Ibn Khuzaymah, right? These scholars said you would accept it blindly. You would accept this, even if the narrator is majhul line. Why would they say that?
Because the rest of the chain in the Islam.
Yeah, but then even if the rest is sahih, you got one bad apple, it ruins the rest of them. For all or nothing.
Maybe there are other hadiths which kind of strengthens this.
Could be, yeah, that's one of them. There's other turuq, there's other chains of hadith which match this hadith and they give strength to each other. That's one, but not the one I'm looking for. It's not mentioned in the book.
No.
What do you think? Why would they accept? It's because in the Quran Allah told us, O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in fatabayyanu. If a fasiq came to you, a fasiq is a disobedient person, with some sort of information, then verify it. They thought that, the person who's narrating, every person by default isn't a fasiq. By default, every person, we assume good of them, right? So if the fisq isn't affirmed for this person, then we assume he's a good person in general. So we have a good opinion of him. So hence we accept everything he says. So even if we don't know who the Rawi is, we only know his name, we don't know his biography, we would accept from him. This is the opinion of Ibn al-Mawaq from the Hanafi school, Ibn Khuzaymah, Ibn Habban. But even then they say, this is what our teachers used to say, the Sufi people, as in the people who have good opinion of people, never trust the hadith because they assume everyone else is good. If you have a good person, usually they see the goodness in others and they're not critical of others. They just accept, he said it, he said it to me, I accept it. But no, but this person is known for lying. This person is known that they don't have a good memory. This person is known that they forge hadith. Yeah. So, good people usually have opinion of good people, the husn al-dhan thing. So this is another opinion. Another opinion is that if the person narrating this hadith from a majhulul ayn person is a person who only narrates from authentic narrators. For example, Malik ibn Anas, Imam Malik, and Sufyan, they will only narrate from people who are reliable. This is well known about them. And if they narrate from someone who is, we don't know anything about him except for his name, then we would accept that. This is one opinion. And another opinion is, if it's the same thing, for example, Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani from the Hanafi school, right? Towards the end of his life, when he used to narrate from his teacher, Abu Yusuf, right? He used to say, Haddathani thiqa, the authentic person narrated to me. Because of some kafuful that happened between these two, they had a little falling out towards the end of their lives. So later on, he only referred to him as the authentic scholar narrated to me. He never used to refer to him by name, right? This is mentioned in Sharh Jami' al-Saghir by Sarakhsi. So it's mentioned in the muqaddimah of that. So he used to only narrate thiqa. So some scholars said, if the person is known as to be reliable, like other people know him to be reliable, then it's fine. So Abu Yusuf was an individual that other scholars found him reliable. For example, Ahmed ibn Hanbal praises him a lot. So these are the different rulings regarding majhul hadith, majhul rawi. So you have a majhul person who you blanketly don't know. Majhulul hal. We don't know about him in blanketly. And people call him mastur, hidden. هو من روى عنه اثنان فأكثر لكن لم يوثق. So two or more people narrate from this person, but tawthiq hasn't been. Some of the hadith scholars, like the likes of Yahya bin Ma'in, Ali ibn al-Madini, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, these are the scholars of Jarh and Ta'dil. They say this person is good, this person bad. They look at their biographies and they comment on them. There is no comment found regarding this individual. This is called majhul. This person is majhul because we don't know him, but majhulul hal. We know his name, we don't know his biography. No comment has been made. This is a mastur. So this doesn't have, all these different subcategories. They don't have specific names in and of themselves. The muhaddithin didn't have. They just called them majhul. All of these things fall under hadith majhul. So when we say this rawi is majhul, we think about all these things. We think about maybe people narrated from him, but biography isn't known. Maybe people narrated from him, but no one has given him accreditation and no one has disparaged him. No one said he's good, no one said he's bad. Person who's narrating, he might be different people. This is majhul. And hadith mubham ويمكن أن نعدهم المبهم من أنواع المجهول وإن كان العلماء الحديث قد أطلقوا عليه اسما خاصا لكن حقيقته there's another type of narration called mubham. Mubham in the Arabic language means
Nonsense.
Vague, unclear, vague. هو من لم يصرح باسمه في الحديث. So it's a person whose name has not been mentioned explicitly in the hadith. So حكم روايته عدم القبول حتى يصرح الراوي عنه باسمه أو يعرف اسمه بوروده من طريق آخر مصرحا فيه باسمه. So if I say, for example, the good scholar narrated to me, we heard from so and so that the Messenger of Allah said XYZ. That will not be accepted. That's known as a vague hadith. I didn't mention his name, I just mentioned something about him. The good scholar. For example, the Sheikh narrated to me. When we talk about the Sheikh in different contexts, if we talk about, some of our Sufis people, right, they say, oh, Sheikh said. Who's Sheikh? Right? Sheikh can be multiple individuals. So that's what we call hadith mubham, right? And so that's hadith mubham. So you would only accept a hadith mubham when another chain came mentioning his name explicitly. Then you would say, okay, Sheikh means him, and we can compare the two chains, and then it will be accepted. وسبب رد روايته جهالة عينه لأن من أبهم اسمه جهلت عينه وجهلت عدالته من باب أولى فلا تقبل روايته. أو أبهم بلفظ التعديل فهل تقبل روايته ذلك مثل يقول الراوي عنه أخبرني ثقة. So for example, if I said a good thing about a person and I narrated from them, for example, the trustworthy person narrated to me, and this is the example I gave about Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, his student, narrated from Abu Yusuf, and he used to, towards the end of his life, he used to say, Haddathani thiqa, the trustworthy person narrated from me. So again, the most authentic opinion is that you don't accept the narrator, except obviously, except that it's been clear in another chain. And this is because a person may be trustworthy according to me. Yeah, according to me, the Sheikh is trustworthy, but he won't be trustworthy according to someone else. There might be a difference of opinion about him. So this hadith is called hadith mubham, and this is a hadith where the hadith scholar, the teacher, is not mentioned, his name is not mentioned explicitly. And Al-Bayquni said in his Manzuma, وَمُبْهَمٌ مَا فِيهِ رَاوٍ لَمْ يُسَمْ. The most famous books regarding the most famous reasons regarding why أشهر المصنفات في أسباب الجهالة. The most famous publications in regarding to this science of finding majhul people are Rawi by Al-Khatib. And then, okay, so sorry, the book is regarding a person who has multiple qualities. So a person like Ibn Abi Dunya, a person who has multiple names. Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi wrote a book called Mudih Awham al-Jam'i wa Tafriq, right? Regarding these particular type of people. So if you look at this guy, he's got multiple names. He collected all the names. Again, another type of book regarding a person whose name is not being mentioned explicitly is the book about vague narrators called Al-Asma al-Mubhama fi al-Anba' al-Muhkama by Al-Khatib Baghdadi again, and the book Al-Mustafad min Mubhamat by Waliuddin al-Iraqi. So the final thing to talk about is the most interesting thing probably today. If the person who is narrating from you or narrating the hadith is a mubtadi', person who involves themselves in bid'ah. But what is bid'ah? Again, this is a topic which we can talk hours and hours about bid'ah. Is there a type of good bid'ah, bad bid'ah? What is bid'ah, linguistically, metaphorically? What the scholars have understood regarding bid'ah, what are the different opinions? Innovation, but what the scholars actually understood, what is a bid'ah? Me driving a car, is that bid'ah? When the Sahaba used to, walk and, go on a camel, or the horses, you got your fast horse. أعز مكان في الدنيا سرج سابح. The most وخير جليس الكتب. This poem is all أعز مكان في الدنيا سرج سابح. The most blessed of places is upon the horse's saddle, upon the morning rider's saddle. So they used to value the horses. Nowadays it can be cars as well. You value a BMW, Audi a lot. So this is kind of, your mode of transport. It used to be really precious to them. That was very off topic. But al-bid'ah, okay, what it means, bada'a in the Arabic language means ansha'a, which means to invent or to create. The message in the Quran is mentioned this word, وَمَا كُنْتُ بِدْعًا مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. I'm not something that's been a new innovation amongst the other messengers. I'm a messenger from the messengers of God. About the messengers of Allah. I'm not a new sort of category. I'm still a messenger, like the other messengers. I'm not a divine, So I'm not a new thing. So ibtada, bada'a means to create something new. In terms of hadith literature, al-hadath fi din ba'da al-ikmal. Something created new in the religion after its completion. أو ما استُثْحِدَ بعد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من الأهواء والأعمال. Or what is sort of understood to be part of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's religion from the A'mal. In a nutshell, a 1-minute summary of bid'ah, based on things I've read and blah blah blah. There's a huge thing nowadays that people when they see someone else doing something, there's bid'ah. Brother, why are you praying extra salah? Bid'ah. If a person's doing something good, then Bismillah, right? And the most famous example, which we go through every year when we talk about bid'ah, is the Mawlid of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This, the Mawlid, and we every single time we have to talk about bid'ah, the definitions of bid'ah, and people, have all these arguments regarding this, long arguments, 3-day long arguments regarding what bid'ah actually is. In a nutshell, bid'ah is something new that you're adding to the religion, but there's no for it. There's no origin for it. For example, the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't allow it. Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah said regarding bid'ah, right, that there's 5 types of bid'ah. There's a bid'ah which is jaiz, a bid'ah which is halal, a bid'ah which is makruh, a bid'ah which is haram. There's different types of bid'ah. Different things fall into a bid'ah. For example, building a school in the name of Islam, that is in a sense a bid'ah, right? And the most famous example, again, it's been disputed by the scholars, so there'll be no sort of ability to reconcile to this day. People try. The problem is people try to reconcile, and they try to prove, you're going to be on my way or the highway, and no one makes friends in the end because they can't reconcile, because this matter has been debated for years and years and years. You're not going to find a solution today, right? But it's really important that we understand different viewpoints. We hear them out rather than blindly, someone said bid'ah, that's it, leave it alone. Try and find out, okay, what is the origin for it? For example, the famous example mentioned by the scholars regarding the Taraweeh Salah. So the Taraweeh in the life of the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it wasn't prayed in congregation. I mean, there's some hadith saying it was 1 or 2 times, even some other hadith saying more, right? But again, in the time of the Sahaba, the religion was complete. When the third ayah of Surah Ma'idah, when that was revealed, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, today we complete your religion. Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati, and I've completed my favor upon you. Wa raditu lakum al-Islam dina, and I made Islam a religion for you. I'm pleased to make Islam as a religion for you. Upon the revelation of this verse, the rules of Islam were complete. Again, today someone asked a question regarding to one of the scholars I was with earlier, saying, "Oh, today internet again is on the subject of bid'ah. Today we have internet, and why isn't there a messenger after the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?" They're asking about the finality of prophethood. Why isn't there a messenger when we need today? Earth is in need of a messenger, because look at the corruption on earth. Look at the persecution, corruption, fighting. There's new technologies that 10 years ago we would never have heard of. 50 years ago they would think that the civilization couldn't advance this much in 1,000 years. And some of the famous authors said that 1 year after the year 2000 is like compared to the previous humanity, is like an advancement of 2,000 years every 1 year. So we are in need of solutions. What is the ruling regarding internet? Someone asked, what's the ruling regarding internet? Where is it mentioned in the Quran and Hadith? What's the ruling in purchasing a BMW? Why not go and get a bike? Why this particular car? I want the ruling for it, brother. No. I want the Islamic ruling. Give me the Islamic ruling of wearing this pair of glasses. What is the Islamic ruling? Is it jaiz, haram? This is bid'ah, brother. This glasses you're wearing, bid'ah. Take it off right now. This sort of
is not haram.
prove, yeah. That's the best one. Prove such a thing is not haram. Akhi, bichara, everything by default, everything is halal. Al aslu fi shay al ibaha. By default, everything is halal. But otherwise, you should be saying prove it's haram. This is how the scholars viewed the religion. And this is a really sad reality that we see today. We think everything haram. But there are more things that are halal than are haram. The little kids, when I teach them fiqh, right? The first thing I make them do is on a paper, write down in Islam, do's and don'ts. Full. And the do's 1 or 2. Islam what is Islam about? I can remember on this TV program, but this kid was explaining Islam. He was explaining Islam to the rest of his class. I was saying, what is Islam? So the teacher was teaching Ari, and he's saying we have a Muslim, he can explain Islam. The kid stand up and he says about Islam. And Bichara is a refugee, he's learning English new, but he was just saying, Islam is that we can't eat pork, and we can't watch TV, and we can't, go to the cinema, and we can't do this, and we can't buy BMWs, and we can't wear glasses. These sort of, he wasn't saying these exact words, but he was saying Islam is we can't. But I think that's how, we've sort of programmed ourselves to think, Islam is about can't. But it's actually about, following the rules that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, but observing them and submitting our will, not just can't, because at times the things that you can't do become jaiz because of necessity, become jaiz. So again, bid'ah is something where there is no asal in the religion, so there is no origin in the religion. For example, giving to a good cause, there is asal in the religion for this. That's why I will take it, and this will not be a bid'ah. This will be a good type of bid'ah. For example, the Taraweeh Salah. What's the asal for Taraweeh? What did Umar bin Khattab? Because religion was complete before the time of Umar bin Khattab. So what he did was ijtihad. It's from his legal reasoning, and you people can object to it. But what was his asal? It was mentioned today by one of the brothers here. Unity, yeah. So yeah, his asal was that once or twice they did do it in congregation. So he said if once, that means it's possible. Hence, we're going to make it. We're going to do it as as we continue. 20 rak'ah again, 20 and 8. A big whole lesson is dedicated to that. But inshallah, we'll do it in the future. We'll do it in the future. There's been pages and pages, volumes written on this. Volumes written. So this hadith, mursal, mawquf, now you'll understand the terminology when we speak about it. But in general, Umar ibn Khattab is from his ijtihad, from his legal reasoning to actually present this as a bid'ah. And he even said in the hadith, Muwatta Imam Malik, ni'matil bid'atu hadha. How great of a bid'ah this is. If it was a bad bid'ah, why would the Sahaba of the Rasul, who understood the messenger, understood the religion directly from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how would he sort of deal with this, and how would he even utter this sentence? So there must be a concept of good bid'ah, bad bid'ah. But obviously some scholars, for example, the likes of Ash-Shatibi, rahimahullah ta'ala, and Al-I'tisam.
Other examples of good bid'ah?
Mawlid. Jokes. The most controversial example. Yeah? Okay. Again, the what? Okay, that's not part of the religion though. The brother said about clothing, wearing the thobe. This is not really part of the religion. I mean, it's a bid'ah, but it's an extra thing. Like, you don't need a ruling on every single aspect. I know Islam is a way of life, true. It offers us guidance in everything, but it doesn't tell us what to do. Islam doesn't say, burgundy is your favorite color. For me, yeah. It doesn't say, oh yeah, you have to like burgundy. Or Islam doesn't say, you can't, you have to like blue. Islam doesn't dictate your personal preference. There's hadith, and the brother taught the Shama'il last year, and he was going through this hadith about, dubba. Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yuhibbu dubba. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to like this sort of pumpkin.
No, I think he's worn black, green, red.
Yeah, about wearing clothes. Yeah. I'm talking about a different example, about eating certain food. Pumpkin. You used to like it, right? If I don't like pumpkin, am I going against the sunnah? Or if I force myself, Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, eating it, are you doing something good by doing that? Some scholars will actually argue you are, because you're forcing yourself to do sunnah. But these are from the sunnah of ada, the sunnah of the habitual practices of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some sunnahs were actually the sunnah of hidayah, that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed 4 rak'ah before dhuhr, right, or 2 rak'ah before dhuhr in some narrations. These are from the sunnah of hidayah, but some are from the sunnah of ada. It's just the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam liked to do things. Just because he liked it doesn't mean everyone else had to like it. For example, Khalid bin Walid, they were in the house of Maymuna, and this real lizard was presented in front of them, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't eating it. And Khalid bin Walid was like, "Is it because haram you're not eating it?" And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No, we don't eat barbecue lizard. It's a Bedouin thing to eat, and that's not the food of my people. I just don't like it." So he just gripped and started munching it because he loved it, right? Barbecue lizard, one of those. But just because the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't like it doesn't mean that it's completely haram. So again, okay, so that's bid'ah. So what about if a person who's narrating the hadith is involved in a bid'ah which is not good? For example, a bid'ah which is not good. I'll give examples of bid'ah which is good, right? The second example, you asked for a second example, final example, is the second adhan in Jum'ah. The second adhan in Jum'ah was not done in the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second adhan in Jum'ah is, where the muazzin stands before the khatib and does the adhan, right? That's the first adhan. The second adhan is the one before that, to call the people to the masjid. Yeah. So when the muazzin gives the second adhan, it's to start the khutbah, the Jummah Salah starting. But before that, the adhan before that, to call the people to the masjid, that was actually at the time of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala.
But if it's not serving a purpose, why to do it?
Exactly. Why are we doing it now? What's the bid'ah? Again, some scholars have answered this saying, okay, it was a bid'ah at the beginning, but everyone accepted it Hence, it became an ijma. It became a consensus because every single person did it. So if it becomes an ijma, which is a consensus, then it changes in terms of ruling. It means that it's part of it. Another ijma has to abrogate it. It's very difficult, I know, to understand and comprehend. But if you don't do it, it's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying don't. Obviously, certain places have certain things. But look, in the haram, they have two adhans. Yeah, so it's like
I mean, in Haram, you have to do one.
20 rakats tarawih. So in the haram, Makki, I know, but the thing is, you have to understand, because it's been passed down in every generation, that's why it's just been like that. You understand? But that's an example of good bid'ah. Example of bad bid'ah, for example, bid'ah and aqidah. The wobbler. Wobble. A wobble, okay. You don't know, you've heard this, but you don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who said
A 30-second summary of wobbler. So, 30 seconds, that's it. A wobbler is a person who goes wibble wobble. A wobbler is a term invented by a group from the Indian subcontinent called the Barelvi group of people. The Barelvi group of people who, I've got some teachers who are Barelvi, who, they told me Qaida, Quran, early, maybe with not Tajweed. Stags. That's notorious. The Barelvi scholars are notorious for not having good Tajweed. You have to go to the Deobandi madrasas to learn it. I'm going to cut the last one. Okay, so
You're recording this.
yeah, it's live. TK, you're not got these brothers here. Okay. This isn't Bradford. Avoid Bradford.
We're going.
We're planning to go Bradford, but Bradford is very central. Anyway, 30 seconds.
What does actually mean?
Wobbler is a deviation of the word Wahhabi. Yeah? Wahhabi, obviously, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was a person, the founding fathers of Saudi Arabia. When they founded. No. Regarding, in general, regarding people, and this is a big part of Mustalah Hadith, we have a good opinion of people. He had good intentions to do what he did, and because he saw a lot of, bad things that happened at his time. This is the early establishment of Saudi Arabia. Look in the books of history for this, but he saw, a lot of bid'at, khurufat, bad things were happening, and he thought, I need to clarify this. I need to bring the people back to the oneness of Allah. That was his. When you read his book, wallahi, you see sincerity in it. Like in terms of he was actually sincere. He legitimately thought that people were going off the rails. So I need to bring them back to the oneness of Allah, because if they don't, they're all going to become mushrik. People have misunderstood, and his followers have propagated his sayings, and known modernly as the Wahhabi sect, the Salafi sect of Islam. But even then, there's not every person who's Salafi identifies himself as Wahhabi, and Wahhabi Salafi, vice versa. But he made certain statements in the book, right? His book, which obviously is a different topic, that mentioned, if you do certain things, you're not in the fold of Islam. If you do certain things, you're a mushrik. You do shirk. And, these have huge connotations. If you call a person a mushrik, right, in an Islamic state, it's very, very bad. Because even the Messenger ﷺ said that إِذَا رَمَى رَجُلٌ بِالْكُفْرِ أَوِ الْفِسْقِ ارتدت عليه إن لم يكن صاحبه كذلك. رواه Muslim. That if a person calls another person a fasiq, right, or or a kafir, then it returns to them if the person isn't like that. So the kufr of the fisq returns to them. So you calling someone that, it returns to you. If you call someone mushrik, calling out of the fold of Islam, so you yourself become out of the fold of Islam. People understood it as a form of the Khariji sect, which has been mentioned earlier. They existed before as well, who call everyone else who isn't them is not Muslim, or isn't. And this is how, unfortunately, certain groups and people in the world have interpreted this to mean that everyone who isn't me, who doesn't believe my way of Islam, then they are not Muslim, they are mushrik. And this is that. So Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, from there, wobbler came about. Everyone who's Wahhabi is wobbler. So if you say, oh, the person's a wobbler, meaning they're part of this Wahhabi Salafi sect, but again, they use it as a blanket term. They say anyone who does, basically anyone who isn't them is a wobbler. That's the fact.
Is a wobbler
I've
like-
seen.
The word wobbler, is it like a mockery of how?
Yeah, it is. But the thing is, it's a dangerous mockery because Wahhab is actually from the names of Allah, right?
Yeah.
And if you're deviating the name of Allah, then obviously the person, you can tell a person who actually invented this term or started spreading it, they were ignorant of Arabic and the terms. So anyone who isn't them is known as a wobbler. Anyone who isn't them is not a Sunni. We are the Sunnis, So, but the confusing thing is now Salafi people have started calling the other people wobbler. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. So now Salafi people call Barelvi people wobblers, but then it's just confusing. Yeah. So this thing. So a person who does bid'ah, a bad bid'ah, for example, they have bid'ah in the aqidah. A person who's on the Rafidi way, the Shi'i way. Shia Imami, you don't believe in the completion of the Quran. There are certain things which make you a kafir, right? If you believe doing a sin, right, alcohol, and you say alcohol is halal because it's jaiz, and you have no reason for it, then you're out of the fold of Islam. But if you just do a sin, it doesn't make you out of the fold of Islam. This is not the belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. If you do out of the fold of Islam, but Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, if you do a big sin, you're not out of the fold of Islam. Only if you say this thing is istihlal, you say this thing is halal, then you become out of the fold of Islam. So, bid'ah mukaffira. Bid'ah mukaffira makes you a kafir. So
just one thing. Saying the dua loudly after salah is a bid'ah, right? Bad bid'ah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So asal. Remember the thing about asal. If there's an asal for it in the religion, the Prophet ﷺ did it, right? If you can use that as an evidence, then you can't say it's bid'ah mukaffira. And the scholars have disputed. For example, Ash-Shatibi has written an entire book, Al-I'tisam, saying there is no bid'ah hasana, bid'ah sayyah. Ash-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the famous mujtahids, Shafi'i, everyone accepts Ash-Shafi'i. He agreed in the types of bid'ah. Bid'ah hasana, bid'ah sayyah. It's mentioned in the Kitab al-Umm of Shafi'i. That he said there are different types of bid'ah. Bid'ah hasana,
But
bid'ah.
that's the only time he did.
What do you mean?
That it was the only time that.
Again, the Prophet ﷺ did make dua loud for people. As in, he made dua and people said Ameen to it. Not just in this incident of the rain. The rain, al-istisqa.
Yes,
Prophet made a jama dua. But in other places as well, he did do duas and they said Ameen. But again, they might not be very clear. But just because they're unclear, again, the onus is on the person to misprove them to say it's haram. If there's an asal for it. If there's an asal for it in the Sharia, that the Prophet ﷺ did it once or twice, right? And people do it, right? Then it's fine. But if people do it every single time, thinking it's a sunnah, then it becomes a bid'ah sayyah. Bid'ah, bad bid'ah. Yeah. If people do it after every namaz, a loud dua, right? Even back in my community, for example, back in Manchester, they do loud dua after every salah. But the question is, it's a private matter of the individual. If the individual believes this to be a sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ, that the Messenger ﷺ did this after every salah, loud like this, and we just say Ameen, Ameen, then it becomes bid'ah sayyah, bad bid'ah. But if the person is doing dua like this because he heard the word of the Messenger ﷺ who said that the du'as after salah are accepted, then it's fine. And we don't say anything about it, and inshallah he'll be rewarded for it. If it depends on a person's intention, and then the intention is a matter of the heart. We can only ask a person truly of the intention by asking them. It's between them and Allah. So we can't, open their hearts up and check their intention. So there's a bid'ah which is a bad type of bid'ah. For example, a person who's got bid'ah in their belief, a Shi'i, and bid'ah mufassiqa, ay yufassaqu sahibuha bisababiha wa huwa man la taqtadi bid'atuhu takfir aslan. Okay. So again, a person who
depends on the hadith.
I'll leave that on pause for now. Can you narrate hadith from a mubtadi, a person who does bid'ah?
Verify it.
Yeah, but can you narrate from them? Can I narrate this hadith that Muqtadi narrated to me? Remember the types of bid'ah I said. The beliefs, anyone who's not on the beliefs of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, in a way they are Muqtadi. For example, a Khariji is a Muqtadi. What do you guys think?
Well, Sheikh, before that, what's the difference between the Khariji and the Takfiri?
Kharij kharaja yakhruju means to exit. So a Khariji is tasmiya bil-dhad. So you're calling the person by what they are actually in object, right? They objected to the qadr, but they are called the qadariyah, right? The Jahmiyyah, no, that's different. Qadariyah, they objected to the qadr. So what were we talking about?
Different.
The Kharijiyah, they said other people are exited from Islam. So they were, known as a Khariji. They take people out. You get me? So anyone who does a big sin is a kafir. Takfiri is the same thing. Takfiri is not a general thing. You make takfir bil jins. As in you say a whole group of they all kafir. Shia kafir. All kafar. All kafar. Calling a whole group of people kufar is takfir, which is not allowed. If you do kufr muayyan, a scholar saying this particular person is a kafir because they have this belief, that's kufr muayyan. It's a specific type of takfir, which is accepted at times. If a judge wants to prove something. But saying, Shia kafar, all kafar, this is not right. And we do not believe the beliefs of such people that say these things, because this is not the way of Ahlul Sunnah, and this is not the way of Muslimin, and this is not the way of unity, to blankly say people are kafir. So, Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, had teachers who were Khariji. Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah ta'ala, had teachers who were classed as Shi'i, and he narrated from them in his Sahih. Not a lot of people know this.
Yeah, you mentioned it a few weeks ago.
So imagine the guy who said Shia al Kufar, when you say Bukhari teacher Shi'i, it's a contradiction, isn't it? But then what type of Shi'i were they? Again, the subtitle. So it's a very nuanced matter. In a nutshell, a person who propagates the bid'ah, right? The hadith narrator wouldn't narrate from them. A person who is a mubtadi', for example, a Khariji. So Khariji people believe lying is a big sin, right? Lying is a sin. So by lying, you're out of the fold of Islam. So would a Khariji person lie?
No.
So then you'd accept his narration because he wouldn't lie, right? So for example, Imran ibn Hittan, one of the teachers of Al-Bukhari, he was a Khariji, but he narrated hadith from him. Right, Imran ibn Hittan. A story regarding Imran ibn Hittan, I know we've gone a lot over, we'll finish at this point. So he had his wife, right? A lady, a beautiful lady, wanted to come and get married to him, and he was, a bit nah. He was a bit ugly. So she goes to him, but he was a very intelligent guy, very, very intelligent. So she goes to him, let's get married. We can have children that will inherit my beauty and your intelligence. And he's like, but what happens if they inherit my beauty and your intelligence? So Imran ibn Hattan Khariji, but Imam Bukhari narrated from him. Again, some Shi'i narrators in Bukhari, but again, Shi'i, what does Shi'i mean? There's a huge, even within the Shi'i school, Shia Imamiyya, Shia this, Shia that, a person who prefers, if you prefer the Khilafah of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who, arguably, this is again a matter of different incident. Ali radiallahu ta'ala, when the Khilafah first came about, he himself thought he wanted the Khilafah. It's very clear in the books of Hadith, where he didn't do the bay'ah straight away, and later on, so people who were with him, they were known by later people as the Shi'i. So preferring the Khilafah of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right, is that, if that makes you a Shi'i, then, you can be classed as a Shi'i in that sense. In La'na of the Sahaba, Takfir of the Sahaba, this is the Shi'i which, you wouldn't narrate from. If you, say these Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is going to go to hell and, this sort of things. This is na'udhu billah, we don't accept that because the mother of the believers are from the household of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We believe that is the belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that the Ahlul Bayt, The household of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam are a family like no other family. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned several hadith regarding the fadail of Ahlul Bayt, the virtues of his own family, but we believe his wives are included in that. وَأَزْوَاجُهُ أُمَّهَاتُهُم, Quran says, and his wives are their mothers, the mothers of the believers, right? And whenever the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about his family, itrati, taraktu fikum amrayn kitabullah wa itrati, I left you two things, my book and my family, my progeny, the people, my al. The Shi'is use this narration, right? And they say it's in Bukhari and Muslim, look, you guys are disrespecting the family of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it's to two extremes. One is, having complete love for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We do love him. We have love for his family, but we don't invent things that, they're not kind of deserving of. For example, Ali radiallahu ta'ala, people say that he had the revelation of Quran after him, came to Ali radiallahu ta'ala and dish bash bash. So bid'ah, Arawi is mubtadi'. If the person propagates his bid'ah, then you don't narrate from him. But because he's mubtadi' and he's khariji, for example, it's case by case basis, right? So then you would accept these narrations in certain cases, but with the conditions of narrating this. And certain scholars, like they say regarding Imam Nasai as well, when he passed away, he was giving the virtues of Ali radiallahu ta'ala and he was killed regarding that. And this incident, actually, I read it regarding another scholar of hadith, not Imam Nasai, another scholar who was actually killed in this way. And people have, mixed the stories up. So in summary, a mubtadi narrator, there's no blanket ruling for it. We find mubtadi narrators in Sahih al-Bukhari. But again, do they propagate the bid'ah? What type of bid'ah is? If it's a bid'ah that makes you a kafir, you wouldn't narrate from him. If it's a bid'ah that makes you a fasiq, you could narrate from him. Because, a khariji is still kind of mubtadi', but they're bad bid'ah. Because, you're taking people out of the fold of Islam, but you don't lie. Yeah. So then in this certain incident, you maybe can narrate from them. So this was that. A long session today. But inshallah, we summarized what these types of narrators actually have wrong with them and when to accept them, when to not accept them. And alhamdulillah, we're very close to finishing because the next part of this book, I've actually covered it in the beginning. Hadith Qudsi, Marfu, Mawquf, Maqtu. We covered all this stuff in the beginning. We'll briefly summarize it and then have some final comments regarding the science of Jarh and Ta'dil and disparagement. And then we finish the book. After we finish the book, for 2 weeks, we're going to do this poem, which is the Manzuma Baykuniya. It's a poem of 30 lines. It'll take 2 weeks to finish, but it's basically a summary of the whole of Mustalah Hadith. But we've done it in depth now, alhamdulillah, to some extent, and it's been a year, believe it or not, since we started this. But inshallah, that will be like a good summary and a good overall picture of the terminology we have in Hadith sciences. So we end by seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Jazakallah.